What's going on, everybody? It's yours truly, Coach Mike Dub, here with the Lockdown Defense Sports Studio, here for more daily coverage. Of course, if you haven't noticed yet, we are into the springtime months. We made it through February. It's officially March, which means that it is now scout season, right? All eyes are on, the NFL Combine. They're on the college guys that are about to make their transition into the NFL in just a little over a month. And it's an exciting time. There's been a lot of moving and shaking, a lot of things going on in the NFL this past few weeks. But it all started out this week with a bang with the NFL Combine. And we're just about here to talk about some of the sleepers, some of the people whose stock went up from the Combine, as well as individuals whose stock may have gone down a little bit. But most importantly, we're going to talk about some good fits for these guys going into their NFL careers as well. So, like I said last week, the NFL Combine wrapped up. It was a lot of great action. A lot of guys came out, showed up, did their thing. So we're going to dive right into it. You've heard the other positions. You've seen some of the other positions. Now we get the pleasure of bringing to you the corners and the wide receivers. That's right. The skill players, the ball catchers, the ball defenders, shutdown corners, all those things, the playmakers, I like to call them. And we're going to dive into it, kind of get into our top NFL prospects. Like I said, the guys whose stock went up from the combine and guys whose stock went down from the combine as well. So, once again, we're talking about short shots, sleepers, best fits, all of the above. And really, let me start out by saying all of our evaluations and all of what we're talking about today is going to be surely based off of combine performance. So I say that to say there's going to be some big names that you don't hear today. It's not because we don't think they're going to be short shots or, maybe we don't find the best fit for them. No, we're just saying that because maybe they didn't compete in the combine. So me personally, I didn't include them because this is pretty much geared towards guys who really showed out in the combine or guys who showed up to the combine and how their performance kind of affected where we see them going in the draft in April. So like I said, there's a lot of guys that made the decision not to work out. Obviously the Travis Hunters, the big name guys, Will Johnsons as well. We won't talk about them today because we're going to talk about pretty much the guys that showed up at the combine and worked out. So a lot of people you'll be hearing about in the next few months at their pro days and things like that. But for today, we're just talking about the guys who did their thing this past week in Indianapolis. So without further ado, we're going to jump into our short shots, right? At wide receiver. Okay. Obviously, those are the guys that catch the ball. Those are the guys that, make the plays. So we're going to jump right into it. Short shot at wide receiver, Luther Burden. Now, if you follow college football, you know that coming into the season, Luther Burden was looked at as, one of the top receivers in the country. He was definitely in the conversation with McMillan from Arizona and also, of course, Travis Hunter at Colorado. As the season went on, numbers didn't really look the way that you thought they were going to look. And, the other two guys separated themselves a little bit. But Luther Burden is still a dog. If you ask anybody, how would they describe him? That's just one word. That would be it. He decided to go and work out for the combine, probably partially because his numbers weren't what a lot of people thought they were going to be coming into the season. Not to say that he didn't have a good season, but like I said, it was a lot of hype and a lot of attention going into him. So I think he decided to go to the combine for that reason, and he didn't disappoint. Started out with the 40, ran a good 40. You can see his measurables. Luther Burden is not a small guy, and if you watch him on film, he's a great playmaking, receiver, great with yards after the catch. He's hard to bring down. He has a solid frame. So to go out there and run a 4.4, those are probably a lot of questions that a lot of people were talking about. Does he have the breakaway speed? They know that he has playmaking ability, but just kind of figuring out, how will he clock when he runs? So to go out there and to perform well, I think that did a lot for his stock. I think his stock went up. I'm a guy that obviously, especially at a wide receiver position, 40s don't tell the whole story. Some of the better wide receivers in the league now and in the history of the league haven't ran the best 40s, but the eye test is always going to go far. So Luther Burden is a guy that obviously passed the eye test coming into the season, but the fact that he went out and performed well at the combine just went ahead and checked that box and made people understand that, yes, he is going to be a good producer in the next level. I think he's going to be obviously a first rounder. I'm looking at him being, if not, one of the top number two quarterback, number two wide receivers taken, maybe number three wide receiver taken off the board. But I do see him going, in the first round. I think he has the ability to do that. When I think about ideal landing spots, right? At first, the first name that comes to mind because of his, comparable abilities is the 49ers. Obviously, they just traded away Debo to the Commanders. What better way to replace him than with a guy who has similar yak ability, similar playmaking ability? You can get the ball to him in short yard situations and see him, take that thing all the way. I think he's a guy that could definitely do that. And then also the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are looking for somebody on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb. Luther Burden is a guy that I think would fit in perfectly in that system. Will be, perfect with a veteran quarterback also. So those are two spots that I think will be dream locations for Luther Burden, who I feel like is a sure thing in this draft. Now, that being said, we're going to move on to our sleepers, right? So who are guys that really stood out at the combine and improved their stock? First guy that comes to mind, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. Why did he come to mind? The first thing that stands out about this guy is his size. 6'4", 214, obviously a big body receiver. And to be 6'4" and run in the low 4.4s, that's pretty impressive. He showed that he had decent speed. Obviously, he's a strider, but the thing that stood out to me about him was his catch radius. He does a great job using his body, which makes him a great red zone threat. If you get him the ball inside the red zone, he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to give your guys a chance to convert on those short yardage situations as well. I love the way he uses his frame. I think he has the potential to come in and really compete, specifically if he gets a chance to go to a team that, can move the ball. Like I said, get him in situations where he can convert on those third and short and fourth and short and red zone tries. He's going to be a good situational wide receiver, I feel like, if put in the right system, which means that I could see him going, second to third round, maybe a little later, but, second to third round. But I think a good team is going to get a chance at getting a shot at him, and he's going to get a chance to make an immediate impact. I look at a team like the Chiefs. I look at a team like the Ravens. Obviously, they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. These are elite quarterbacks, on both or on these teams. And I think he'll be able to fit right in because he'll have a specific situation that he can come in and contribute to right away. So Jaden Higgins, that's a name to be on the lookout for. And then finally, Jack Betch, okay, wide receiver from TCU, another very physical body, very strong, caught a lot of slants. I think he's going to be really good in a West Coast type offense. 6'1", he did not run his 40, but he did do the bench. He actually put up 19 reps. So, he's a very physical body. He's a guy that probably will get out there and help you in the run game as well. When you think about ideal landing spots, one of the people that really struck me as somebody that I thought about, maybe not to this level yet, but somebody like a Michael Thomas, how he dominates it with those inside routes, the slants, the digs, using his body, getting in between the defender and the ball. So clearly the Saints, they have some wide receivers that stretch the field. I think they could probably look for a guy that's more of a possession type. He fits in there. And then the Giants, same thing. Obviously, so looking for somebody on the opposite side of Neighbors, a more possession type receiver. Obviously, Neighbors does that. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to draw a lot of attention. He may be somebody that may be able to come in and compliment him as well. So those are my sleepers for the wide receiver position. There are a few more that I would like to see a little bit more from, hopefully in the pro days and in the months leading up, or in the weeks, I should say, leading up to the draft. Hopefully a lot of them kind of show out. I do wish that we were able to get a little bit more, or not even more, get some one-on-ones in the combine. To me, I feel like that's the best way of evaluating wide receivers and corners. 40s, they're not really the say all be all for wide receivers. They mean something for the DBs more than anything else. But I think these are guys that were really stood out to me. All of them look fluid. They look great in their drills. They had great hands in their drills. Were able to have great body control. Those are all things that you look for in the combine at the receiver. And all three of the guys that I brought up today really stood out as far as their hands, their body control, being able to catch the ball, and being able to run smooth routes coming in and out of their breaks. All three of them fit that. All three of them actually fit the physical mold of a West Coast type receiver. So I look for these guys to kind of stand up and be those next big threats on the offensive side of the ball. That being said, It's time to move on to the cornerback position, right? Now we're going to look for our short shots. So, first person that stands out, Maxwell Hairston. I think he had one of the better combines out of all the performers. He's a guy that once again had a great season. Was already talked about as one of the top corners. Maybe two, top three, top four corners in the draft. I think his stock shot up. Had the fastest time in the combine. Now, 40s, I just talked about. 40s are an interesting thing because they're not the say all be all for almost every position. Is it nice to see a defensive lineman run, a 4.5, 4.6, being 270, 280 pounds? Yes, it's nice to see. Is it exciting to see an offensive lineman run a sub 540? Yeah, it's cool. It's nice for, water cooler talk or whatever. But let's be honest, the 40 really only means something for those DBs and those corners. How much can you gauge your closing speed, right? Your acceleration. The 40 means more to this group than anybody else. So to see Maxwell Hairston get out there in his first rep, I think he ran like a 4.3, and everybody was cheering, and you could see on the look on his face, he wanted to break that. He wanted to get under that, and he did just that. Ran a 4.28. He was happy with it. He could have packed up at that moment and not done any drills. He didn't do that. Went out in the drills and looked just as good. Looked fluid in his movement. Had good hip flexibility. He wasn't stiff at all. Did a great job tracking the ball. Did a great job, making plays on the ball as well. I think he really showed his ability, like I said, in the drills. I don't think that it was necessary for him to do them, but the fact that he went out there and did them, they were great. He just solidified the fact that I think he has the potential of being a shutdown corner in this league, which I can see him going to some spots, maybe the Bengals, maybe the Cardinals, if not early in the second round, sometime in that aspect, the team that could be looking for a corner to really step up and be that guy in the future. I think he's somebody that could do that. So that being said, it's time to move on to our sleepers. Now, with the cornerback position, there wasn't a whole lot of sleepers and a whole lot of depth I really saw in the cornerback position, not because guys can't play and, there's not, guys in this draft that are capable, but I just wanted to see a little bit more from the combine. Hopefully, like I said, we see some from, some guys that are coming out with their pro days and things like that. Obviously, there's some people that we know of already that are going to be standout at that corner position. But for the combine, I was really looking for some guys to take it over the top. And there was one that stood out to me, and that's Darian Porter. So Darian Porter, the corner out of Iowa State, he actually was somebody who played wide receiver at first, and then he was able to switch to the other side of the ball. And I'm a fan of the longer, taller cornerbacks, the Richard Sherman types, that body type, the Tariq Willard in Seattle body type. I feel like those are, the wave of the new generation of defensive backs, the longer guys, and he fits that mold. Darian Porter, he uses his body great. He has great closing speed, come in, play the flats, but then also has elite speed to not get beat over the top and to be able to have that catch-up ability as well, which is elite for our corners. Of course, guys that play wide receiver, they have elite, ball skills. They're able to come up with some turnovers, which is great, make great plays on the ball. And I think he's no different in that. What I think his real value will be in his first few years will also be on special teams. I think that's going to give him a chance to make a roster and going to give him a chance to get on that field and play. And I think he's a guy that can really take things to the next level once he gets on that field. So Darian Porter, I'm excited to see him in the next level. I think, once again, I think I can see him at a spot like in Indianapolis, that obviously needs some help at DB. There's a few other spots, like I mentioned before, with Hairston that I could see Darian Porter going to as well. Like I said, his value is going to come in right away, that he can play not only corner, but he'll also make an impact on special teams and be able to help a team right away. So, that's just what stands out to me so far. Like I said, there are some guys that I wish I would have got a chance to see more. There's some guys that stood out a little bit, but like I said, they didn't really pop for me to really stake my name on it and say that they might be a sleeper or they may be somebody to keep an eye on. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on the pro days coming up, locking into some other film to see which guys are going to be creeping up the draft boards, and also taking a look at team needs because you never know. where how many guys are going to be taken off a board at any given position. But so far, these are the people that stood out to me. Like I said, short shot sleepers, best fits at the wide receiver position and the corner position. It was a great combine. Shout out to these young men who stood up, and I look forward to seeing them in the next level. So until next time, it's yours truly, Coach Mike Dub.